Welcome to InTheHyperloop. My name is Blake, and it's been a little bit of time since we last did a video. Um, really, a lot's been happening in this month, and as you can um, tell, we're doing well, but we just want to extend um, a good vibe out there and hope everybody is safe and doing well. And during this really weird time, I know a lot of Hyperloop development seems like not like the first priority, but right now it's kind of a nice escape to think about how we want the future to be and how we as a community and world can treat others better. Um, and let's kind of get into it by talking about Hyperloop Connected, this great website by Delft Hyperloop. They had an article February 26th about Hyperloop security, and really it's not exactly the most cheery of articles to start with, but it's really interesting, and it really kind of talks about physical security of the system, not really about intellectual like hacking or anything like that, but more kind of like just physical security stuff. And it's really complex, as they say. Um, I would also, what really poked out at me was long range thermal cameras. Now that we're seeing extra security at train stations and shutting down of airports and other extra security at airports because of the virus outbreak, um, it'll be interesting to see how rapid, fast technology like Hyperloop will perhaps be one of the first things that's shut off from humans using it. Maybe they would ship cargo in the Hyperloop pod, but probably humans will be the first ones to not be allowed to travel in the Hyperloop because of rapid spreading of viruses or other diseases and pandemics. So, it's really um, kind of a scary topic to talk about, but we're going to get into happier news now. Starting with Transpod, they have had some social media over the last couple of days, probably more so than other Hyperloop companies. With their brilliant minds, you can do everything. So Transpod decided to build a low-cost ventilator for hospitals and participants in the challenge organized by Agorize and this other three companies. So the first parts are due to arrive tomorrow. Stay tuned. And so they're taking part in a challenge, which I'm uh, really glad to see. Again, we haven't seen other Hyperloop companies take part in other um, ways publicly, like on social media or otherwise. So I know all of these teams can probably work remotely, but working on the physical Hyperloop is definitely a second priority right now in helping out the communities and local communities. So good job, Transpod. Next is a really brand new group, the Indian Hyperloop Pod Competition. And they have this website, which is really interesting. They are just kind of going ahead and wanting to organize their own pod competition from the Indian Institute of Technology in Madras. And if you check out the About page, there's perhaps these timelines are going to be changing because India just announced that they're entering in a shutdown of the entire country for a while. So we're glad that you can still submit the compete form. So if you are a team, perhaps, and are interested in taking part in this very similar to SpaceX Hyperloop Pod Competition Challenge, definitely look into them, get in touch with them. On their FAQ page, they have a link at the very bottom to their email address. So I would highly recommend you check them out and support them and give them, some love. At least send them an email and ask about it because they're quick to respond. So good job for organizing this. We're really excited that other groups around the world are wanting to have a pod competition, and the excitement is still there. So good job. Next, I don't know if the audio is going to come through on this, but I would highly recommend you check out Hyper Poland. They had a successful equity crowdfunding, and they have a message. And the co-founders discuss what their next steps are, and how they will be doing another crowdfunding campaign on Seedrs. Um, and this time they're really focusing on business development to get money to start creating test tracks and other mechanisms around the world, and to really get this in the physical world globally. So that's really great. I'd highly recommend you take a look and share the video. And this is their crowdfunding campaign page where they raised 110%. I believe they'll be starting up a new one soon, so stay tuned for that. And really, that's kind of the main updates that I wanted to go over. Of course, you can always join us live in the Hyperloop when we are live here. But I just want to continue to scroll down through Twitter, basically, and Instagram to see what else I shared, basically, in the last couple weeks of being kind of incommunicado. So Gatorloop, yeah. They have sponsors and Texas Instruments and SolidWorks, so that's great. HypeEd is, the thumbnail for this video is from HypeEd. The team has settled into our cozy office where we're ready to continue finalizing the design for our newest prototype. I hope you're staying safe during the difficult time, and I really appreciate HypeEd for taking this video, or this photo of everybody's desk, basically. I know all these global teams are following the path of our loop, the Reddit Hyperloop team, and working remotely now, so good job. Hyper Poland, again, we reshared this, and this is interesting. I didn't really know this. Thanks to the tilting mechanism designed by Hyper Poland, the mag-rail vehicle will be 50 to 70% faster on curves than conventional rolling stock. So that's pretty cool. Can't wait to see this with a massive train on a real track. That's going to be awesome. Swiss Loop posted this on their update. Due to the current situation, we've taken all necessary measures to protect the Swiss Loop team members and adhere to the guidelines for public safety issued by the BAG, which I think is a Swiss organization. Our team is currently working from home despite our best efforts. Not all work done in the workshop can be done from home. This will have effects on the assembly timeline of our pod and result in the pod reveal event being postponed as long as it's necessary to contain the pandemic. Depending on how the situation develops, we will review our next steps and keep you updated over our social media channels. Thanks for your understanding during these trying times, and wish everybody good health. Next, Delft Hyperloop updated their website. It's kind of interesting. They're basically putting an interactive timeline on their homepage, which is neat. And March 23rd, we are proud to present to you our interactive timeline. Because of the pandemic, we're forced to work from home as much as possible. To keep testing and producing, we'll work on small shifts to execute tests on our test facility while keeping our health. So 85% of the people are working from home, and 15% are actually in the office, which I think is near the Delft, yeah, near Delft University. So yeah, that's great. Thanks for the update. And one of the organizers for, I think, the IIT Madras Hyperloop Pod competitions asked Elon, any advice on organizing the competition would be greatly appreciated. We're trying to fill the gaps as you're working on the 10-kilometer tube. And again, I thought the 10-kilometer tube would be in Las Vegas, but we'll see. Yeah, so that's great. A lot of support. Avishkar Hyperloop is not going to be participating directly. They're more in an organizing, facilitating role. So that's really great to hear. I'm glad Avishkar Hyperloop lives on like that and is enabling other people to help compete. A lot of Hyper Poland news. Remember, safety and health first. Stay home. Like 100% of the Hyperloop Poland team. Only together can we fight the virus. So that's really good. And getting some really cool hashtag stay at home work being done. So that's mug for work. That's kind of funny. So good job, Hyper Poland. And Delft Hyperloop wrote about the security in and around Hyperloop stations. TUM Hyperloop from Munich tweeted this out about their facilities. And again, they said that they would not be participating in the Hyperloop pod competition for this year, but then it really didn't happen. So I don't know if they'll be following with the Hyperloop pod competition in the future, or perhaps just try to go after their own technology and their own systems. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Also, Hyperloop TT rebranded themselves. I think this might be the second or third or fourth time I think that's happened. Hyperloop UC is working remotely on the designs through video calls, and good for them. Cornell Hyperloop is highlighting Giving Day at Cornell on March 11th. And Swiss Loop again is talking about different research that they're doing. So they say, looking for a topic for your semester? Bachelor or master's thesis students who are interested in diving deeper into the field of vacuum transportation can have a look at swissloop.ch/research to find a broad range of topics for your research. Don't hesitate to contact us. So yeah, a lot of this projects are for semester based, and study on cavity-induced turbulences by high-speed pod passages for high-speed vacuum transportation. That's cool. Study compressor application for improving tube blockage ratio for high-speed vacuum. Develop of a multi-body simulation framework for vacuum transport track pod systems. CFD simulation of pressure waves generated by high-speed body in vacuum. After-wake CFD simulation for multiple pod scenario for high-speed vacuum transportation. That's cool. When one pod goes by and then another like 10 seconds later would go by. That'd be pretty cool. Characterizations of flow-relevant properties for vacuum tube interior surfaces for high-speed vacuum transport. Development of a cooling system for long stator linear motor in a Hyperloop system. So yeah, cooling all of this. That's pretty cool. Experimental method for leakage detection in large volume vessels for high-speed vacuum transport. And really these are like little spacecraft or submarines because they're going so fast through the Hyperloop tube. And I just realized my logo is probably blocking the live feed, but that's okay. Anyway, investigation of inflow shock waves, pressure waves, and low pressure tubes due to tube leakage. And then you fill out the application below. So definitely check that out, fill it out if you're interested. And Transpod had a nice blog post, our director of design and sharing his vision in an interview. So that's cool, definitely check out that. Again, everything in the United States has been pretty much shut down. A lot of state legislatures have been postponed, and a lot of different things are just on hold. So one of the routes in Columbus, Ohio, I know that the state legislature was proponents for this, same with in, I think, Virginia and the Carolinas, as well as the St. Louis area. You know, a lot of legislation was being prepared and lined up, and now with this virus, everything is just out of whack to support test tracks. And Hyperloop One was going to be announcing, you know, where one of the test track facilities was going to be going in the United States, and we haven't heard anything on that. So yeah, this is just one of those articles regarding those test tracks. So we are looking at Cornell AECOM. Interestingly enough, Our Vice President of Digital Innovation America is right about the measures she and others are taking to drive gender parity, and they focus on Virgin Hyperloop One and their work with Virgin. And again, after Richard Branson became an investor with Virgin, a lot more social responsibility by Hyperloop One, in that they're promoting education and STEM field stuff for kids, but also for diversity and women in tech and transportation. So that's good to see, because AECOM is also doing that as well and backing them. Hyperloop Limoges, well, they had an interesting article about core samples, I believe. This project has been a little bit delayed due to various surveying and stuff. So we're just going to take a quick look at this. And this was published a while ago, March 9th. And test center recruitment and construction of demonstration pod, transpod on all fronts. And this has probably been delayed as well. The test center soil study is underway, and the Hyperloop test track, where the test track will be built, core drillings was carried out last week by a specialized company, and the report will be released this week. We have not really seen that report be released, but maybe we've just lost that in everything. And they're recruiting through a European fund, ERDF, granted €2 million last December to Transpod, with the condition that the company works with the University of Limoges. So they're in the recruitment phase, and I'm sure this has been delayed as well with the virus. So this is unfortunate. But Transpod has approached Boston Dynamics to work on a zero version of its pod. Skepticism around our project continues, so we decided to build a demonstrator. Boston Dynamics has an expertise and is interested and it is interesting to pass our technology to the revealer of this technology. We'll hope that to be presented before the summer in Toronto and in France at the start of the school year. The idea is to show how the system works in a transparent tube, especially in regard to levitation. So they want to build maybe a demonstrator. So that's really fascinating. And now we're just going to continue. Delft University had been doing student events and celebrating International Women's Day. And of course you can do an online course on Hyperloop through TU Delft, and I'd highly recommend that. After 3 months of simulation and 2 months of propulsion, the final linear induction motor for our pod is done, consisting of 2 parts. The motor will generate enough force thrust needed for fast acceleration, so then they can test their design. And this was on March 7th. And of course we had more photos of those core tests by Transpod in Limoges. HypEd is celebrating successful team syncs at the Pear Tree, I'm sure, in Edinburgh, which sounds really nice right about now. And Waterloop, Hyping, never heard of it. The nearly complete communication system is an essential part of the pod, utilizing radio and pod communications wirelessly and runs autonomously. If you keep track of pod telemetry commands, it also keeps track of pod telemetry commands and interference between TCP and CAN bus. So keeping you in the loop this week, communication system. So yeah, we get to see all these different little devices, and unfortunately I don't know much about this, but it looks really cool. Pod and then all these other receivers or little sensors that will be sending data. So that's cool. Again, HyperPoland's been tweeting a lot and celebrating about their 100% funding. Magway, which is the British company that is going to be sending small little packages through tubes, was named one of the winning projects in the driving the Electrical Revolution Challenge. So that's cool. They also had a crowdfunding campaign, and it was nice to see that. And Transpod is kicking off and helping out, doing education outreach to better understand the technology of tomorrow and be able to make wise decisions. So that's pretty cool. And that's about it. So we are, and Zelaros had previously been really promoting their company and talking about the future European Hyperloop system. So that's really good. And I think that's about it for March news. Next, we're just going to kind of go into Instagram. And I'd highly recommend you follow these Instagram teams because they're making stories all the time regarding various updates. And as we can see in this Hyper Poland photo from their reveal, their pod reveal and testing of their pod, 2021 full-scale Magarel prototype vehicle and test track, 2022 end of trials, beginning of certification, 2022 to 23 Magarel system pilot implementation. So that's cool. And we're just kind of scrolling down here. Rylerson Hyperloop, I think I'm saying that correctly, has been producing some material. Progress is being made who thinks outside the box. So give them a follow and a like. And I'll like them. KT Hyperloop, the Swedish group, we're waking up to some time of inactivity, and what a time to find ourselves in. We, as many others, have been affected by the virus, and since the beginning of last week, we are off campus and working from our homes. We are adapting to this new situation and also realize that we must do things right given the uncertainty. So let's not forget that it's up to us, the people, to stay united if this means putting distance between each other. KTH Hyperloop is, of course, continues, and our team aims to stay strong and expect to see more content. So stay safe, stay in the loop. And this is a fascinating transpod photo. And unfortunately, I can't translate it, but they worked with some kids in 2019 in physics, and I think they made a small Hyperloop test track. So good job. And I'm just kind of looking through this. Let us know if you have any questions or want more live shows, or definitely more focused news programs. Warwick Hyperloop, we're happy to work on progress. And the team has been working hard to justify the complex magnetic systems and is now looking forward to test them in the nearest future. Importantly, we hope that you and your families are well and retain positive attitudes during these difficult times. P.S. The team meeting took place 2 weeks ago, so that's good that they're working remotely now. And we are just looking at, it's kind of interesting, some of the Hyperloop pod competition teams have changed to electric car racing. So that's always the case for all of these Hyperloop pod competition teams if they're, and this was interesting, Huon Hyperloop, and is this, are they in Egypt? I forget. But yeah, they've been posting some interesting videos and content recently, so I'm just going to look them up real quick. Yeah, I think they are in Egypt. So stay at home. Definitely thank you, Hilan, for doing that. And they posted that they've had a couple presentations, so that's really interesting. The Leaders League presentations, so that's cool. Avishkar Hyperloop was promoting the Indian Hyperloop pod competition, and probably those dates might change due to the virus, but we'll see. Delft Hyperloop. Right, so this is kind of interesting. At the beginning of the year, there was no official announcement of the SpaceX Hyperloop pod competition. However, it is normal to start a new Delft Hyperloop year in such situations, and for that reason, the team has started working on a pod with full enthusiasm. Based on old rules from the previous competition, our engineers began designing, testing, and going through the full iteration process. After 6 months of waiting, we received the first official message from SpaceX: no competition will be held this summer. It has been an honor to participate in past editions of the Hyperloop pod competition. However, after hearing the news, we are forced to conclude that joining the SpaceX Hyperloop pod competition in 2020 is highly unlikely for Delta Hyperloop 4. We decided not to wait any longer and will start working on a new goal, breaking the Delta Hyperloop record on our long test track in Hilversum. With no time to waste and again the full enthusiasm, we started working on our new strategy. The engineers were producing at maximum capacity and our PR managers were able to secure dates for our Delta Hyperloop events. We kept close contact with the European Hyperloop teams, and Delta Hyperloop 4 was motivated to give 100% for this new year. This week, extra precaution measures due to the virus. So yeah, we'll keep you up to date. It's just super crazy. And Virginia Tech is going to be finishing the rest of the semester virtually. And this is kind of funny. Elon Musk, Queen's Hyperloop, was promoting managers. We haven't heard from them in a while. And yeah, definitely apply and reach out to them if you're in Australia. Definitely a great crew with lots of experience at other past Hyperloop pod competitions. And Hyperloop UPV, we haven't heard from in a while. And they were sharing their prototype. And yeah, I'm sure they're affected by all of the virus as well in Spain. And yeah, that's about it. I think we've kind of reached, in Valley, a Hyperloop. The Mumbai-Pune Hyperloop project is still on the cards and will be implemented using the Swiss challenge method. Maharaja Urban Development Minister told the Legislative Council on Wednesday, conceptualized by the Devaranda Freihavas-led government, the Hyperloop project aims to reduce the travel between Pune and Mumbai from about 3 hours to just 25 minutes. Incidentally, the Maharaja Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar last month said that the state government would consider the Hyperloop project if it is shown to be practical in other countries. So yeah, that's kind of the same that we've heard. That's kind of on the holds for now in India, but if it can be demonstrated elsewhere, then the Indian government will be fully behind it. So Hyperloop TT hasn't posted in a while. Hyperloop TT's system is invented in Abu Dhabi. And yeah, that's kind of it for March. Let us know what you think. I know this has been kind of a crazy news update, but it's been kind of a crazy month, and nothing is impossible. I'm just trying to find some fun videos. Well, let's just look at Earth bricks. And you know, if you have some time, go on the Delta Hyperloop website. They have a great VR system if you have a VR setup that you can kind of walk through a terminal. And let us know what you think. We'll be continuing to do these little updates, hopefully more regularly. It's just been really busy in the last couple of weeks, and seems to be changing daily. So stay in the loop and stay safe, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.